When I forgot a birthday gift for my grandson, my son's wife yelled, "You're a failure even as a grandparent." My son texted me after, "Please apologize to keep the peace." I did more than apologize. I collected every receipt, every loan, every transfer I had ever given them, and when they got served with what came next, their world turned silent because I'm not the kind of person who holds grudges. At least, I didn't used to be. I was always the one who tried to keep things calm in the family. I raised my son Mark on my own after his dad left when he was in middle school. It wasn't easy. I worked 2 jobs for a while, bookkeeping during the day, stocking shelves at a grocery store at night. I didn't complain. I just did what needed to be done. He was a good kid back then. Quiet, smart, never gave me too much trouble. I was proud of him. Then he met Denise. I still remember the first time he brought her home. She had that way of talking like she was always a little annoyed. She sized up my house the moment she stepped in, said something like, "This is cute. Real cozy." That was her way of saying it was small. Old. Not good enough. I let it go. I figured maybe she just had a sharp edge. Maybe she was nervous. I told myself not to judge. They got married a year later. I helped pay for the wedding, $5,000 from my savings. They said they'd reimburse me when Mark's bonus came in. That never happened. Again, I let it go. It was my son's wedding. I didn't want to start married life for them with a fight over money. I didn't even mention it. Then came the first loan. Their car broke down. They needed $2,500. Just until tax time, Mark said. I sent it over that same day. Then it was the house, roof damage, furnace repairs, hospital bills when their daughter broke her arm. I always helped. Every time. I kept track, but I never pushed for repayment. I figured they were family. They'd do the right thing eventually. Denise never liked that I kept records. Once when I asked her about a $1,000 they still owed, she said, "Wow, do you write everything down like some kind of banker?" I laughed it off then, but something in her tone stuck with me. I never asked for anything back. Not even when I had to take a temp job at 68 just to cover my rising insurance premiums. Not even when my water heater gave out and I patched it together with duct tape and a prayer. I just kept helping. So, when I forgot the birthday gift, I didn't think it would be the end of the world. My grandson turned 6 last month. I'd been in urgent care 2 days before after falling on the porch. Bruised ribs, nothing broken, but the pain was real. I wasn't sleeping well, the meds made my head foggy, and I just completely forgot to stop by the store. I called that morning. I sang happy birthday on speakerphone. He was so happy to hear from me, he didn't even mention presents. Kids don't care as much as adults think they do. But Denise? She cared. We were all at their house that night for his party. Balloons, decorations, her parents were there, a few neighbors. As we sat down to eat, she asked, loudly, "So what did you get him, Nana?" I froze. Then I told the truth. I forgot. I said I was going to drop something off this week. She made a face, like she'd smelled something rotten. Then she looked around the table and said, "Wow. You forgot your own grandson's birthday gift. Honestly, you're a failure even as a grandparent." She laughed after she said it. But no one else did. I looked at Mark. He didn't flinch. Just kept eating. Didn't say a word. I swallowed the lump in my throat, smiled politely, and said I wasn't feeling well. I left before cake. Drove home in silence. Didn't even turn on the radio. That sentence kept replaying in my head. A failure even as a grandparent. The next morning, Mark sent me a text. "Hey, can you just apologize to Denise? She's upset. We just want to keep the peace." That was it. No, how are you feeling? No, sorry about last night. Just a demand to apologize. I sat with that text for an hour. Then I got up, went into the garage, and opened the old metal file cabinet I've kept since the 80s. Inside were folders. Every year. Every tax return, every receipt, every check stub. I opened a new folder and labeled it Mark and Denise. I pulled statements from my bank, my Venmo history, old emails. I started printing. It took 2 days, but I got everything. Every loan, every bill I covered, every text that said, "We'll pay you back soon." I put it all in order. 8 years of helping. The total, $43,548.71. I called a lawyer. Not one of those big downtown types. Just a local guy I'd done taxes with once. He reviewed it, told me I had a case. "You've documented everything," he said. They agreed to pay it back in writing. That's enforceable. I told him to go ahead. File what we could. 3 weeks later, Mark and Denise got served. Not an email. Not a warning. A process server at their door at dinner time. Demand for repayment. Formal. Legal. I haven't heard a word from them since. No angry calls. No defensive texts. Just silence. But silence speaks. And I've stopped keeping the peace. About a week after they were served, I started getting messages, not from Mark or Denise, but from people around them. It started with Denise's mother, Patricia. She called me one morning while I was having my coffee. No greeting, no small talk. Just, "Are you really suing your own son? Over money you gave him?" I told her it wasn't a gift. I told her it was loan after loan, and that I had proof. She cut me off. "You're tearing this family apart over a few bucks. Do you know how this is affecting the kids?" I wanted to scream. A few bucks? 43,000 isn't a few bucks to someone who still shops the clearance rack and reuses plastic bags. Instead, I said calmly, if Denise hadn't humiliated me at dinner, none of this would have happened. If Mark had stood up for me once, I might have let it go. Patricia muttered something and hung up. 10 minutes later, I saw a Facebook post from Denise. It didn't name me directly, but it said, "Some people will sue their own family to feel powerful again." Pitiful, really. "Keep your toxic energy out of my kids' lives." Comments flooded in. Friends of hers offering support. Her sister chimed in with, "You've done so much for them." Some people just want control. The only person who didn't say anything? Mark. That silence hurt more than any post ever could. A few days later, I got a letter from their lawyer. They were trying to argue that the money I gave was customary family support and that I had no reasonable expectation of repayment. Their lawyer even included screenshots of birthday cards I'd written to my grandson, trying to paint me as a loving, doting grandma who gave from the heart. I handed everything to my lawyer, Harris. He wasn't fazed. "They're panicking," he said. "This tells me they don't want it to go to court, but it did go somewhere else, school." One of my friends from church called to tell me her daughter, who teaches at the same elementary school my grandson attends, overheard Denise talking loudly in the parking lot. She said I was mentally unstable and trying to steal from her son's future. When I heard that, something inside me snapped, not just because it was cruel, but because it was dangerous. I've spent the last 6 years being the emergency contact, the free babysitter, the one they left their kids with for weekends when they wanted to reconnect at hotels. Now she was trying to frame me as a threat? That same week, they blocked my number. I found out because I tried texting Mark about a medical bill I still had in his name, something from when he was in college that was accidentally tied to my insurance. The message didn't go through. Tried calling. Straight to voicemail. That was the moment I realized they were trying to erase me. From their life. From their kids' lives. Just like that. So, I did something I didn't think I'd ever do. I made copies of the documents. All of them. I put them in manila folders. One for Mark. One for Denise. One for the court. And one for each of their children. They're too young to understand now. But someday they'll read them. And they'll know the truth. I'm not the villain in this story. I'm the one who gave until there was nothing left. And now I'm the one drawing the line. But this isn't over. They're about to find out what it means when you push someone too far. 2 weeks after the court papers were delivered, I got a knock on my door. It was late, close to 9 p.m., and I don't usually answer that late, but something told me to look. I opened the door to find Denise's father, Howard, standing there. He was holding a manila envelope and looked different. Less smug than usual. Tired. "Can we talk?" he asked. I hesitated, but stepped aside. He sat at my kitchen table like he'd been here before, though he never had. Always too busy to attend anything I invited them to. Too important for pot roast and store-bought pie. He slid the envelope across the table. You might want to see this. Inside were pages of printed emails, bank statements, copies of applications. At first, I didn't understand. Then I started reading. My name was on a few documents. Specifically, as a silent cosigner for a home equity line of credit. Only I never signed anything. Howard said he found them by accident. He'd been helping them organize their finances, thinking maybe he could help them settle with me quietly. But what he found instead was that Mark and Denise had used my social security number and somehow forged my signature on several documents over the last 2 years. One of them was for a $20,000 line of credit. They hadn't just borrowed from me. They'd borrowed as me. Howard leaned forward, whispering like the walls might talk. You need to know I didn't know anything about this. But if this comes out in court, it could become criminal. I told Denise to come clean. She refused. She thinks you won't go that far. I stared at the papers.
Cold. Numb.
Then Howard said something that turned my stomach. Mark didn't know about all of it either. She told him it was legal, that you'd given permission. I didn't know what to believe. But if he was lying, it was a hell of a performance. I made copies. Then I gave the originals back to Howard. Thank you, I said, though it felt like ash in my mouth. After he left, I called Harris and told him everything. The next morning, I pulled my credit report. Sure enough, there were 2 accounts I didn't recognize. Both opened under my name. Both tied to Mark and Denise's address. The moment I saw them, the air left my lungs. This wasn't just a betrayal anymore. This was fraud. And now it wasn't just going to be about getting my money back. This was going to become something much, much bigger. After I found the credit fraud, something in me changed. I wasn't just a hurt mother anymore. I was a victim of a crime, and I was ready to act like one. I gave Harris everything. The bank papers. The forged signatures. The dates. We filed a police report. I knew it would tear the family apart even more, but I was past the point of caring. They weren't family to me anymore. Not after this. The detective who called me back took it seriously. Elder financial abuse, identity theft, wire fraud. He listed the charges slowly, like he was making sure I understood. I did. I felt every word like a punch to the chest. It didn't take long. They traced the Helic documents. The IP address on the online forms came straight from their home network. The handwriting analyst matched Denise's messy loops to the forged signature on the physical papers. And then came the texts. Denise had messaged a friend saying, "She'll never know. Old people don't even check their credit." That was the last piece they needed. The day they came to arrest her, I didn't find out right away. I only knew something had happened because my neighbor's daughter, who works at the Durham County Courthouse, called me and said, "You should sit down. Denise was booked this morning."
I didn't feel happy.
I didn't feel satisfied. I felt still. 2 hours later, Mark showed up at my door. His face was pale, his eyes red. He didn't say hello. He just stood there, then fell to his knees on my porch like a broken man. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I swear to God, Mom. I didn't know she used your name." I didn't move. He looked up at me. "I thought it was just loans. I thought you'd come after us for money, sure, but not this. Not fraud. She told me it was handled. She told me it was legal." I asked him one question. "Why didn't you protect me when she called me a failure?" He couldn't answer. He just cried. I let him sit there for a while. Then I told him, "I reported the fraud. I won't stop that. But I'll speak to the prosecutor. I'll tell them I believe you didn't know. Whether they believe that is up to them." He nodded, still shaking. 3 months passed. Denise was indicted. Plea deal came fast. 3 felony counts reduced to 1 in exchange for no jail time, just 5 years of probation, full restitution, and mandatory counseling. She took it. She had no choice. Restitution meant paying me back everything. All $43,548.71, plus another $20,000 for the hellic damage to my credit. Her wages are now garnished. Every month, I get a check from the court. Small amounts, but they come. They had to sell the house. The equity was gone. They moved into a rental an hour away. Mark works 2 jobs now. Denise lost hers when her employer found out about the charges. I don't see my grandchildren anymore. That's the part that still stings. They're young. They don't know what really happened. Someday, maybe they'll understand. Maybe they'll come find me. I wrote them letters, sealed them in envelopes, put them in the same folder with the evidence, just in case. As for me, I've changed. I no longer confuse silence for peace. I no longer keep quiet just to avoid making waves. Because when you spend your life giving and they treat you like you're nothing, you have every right to take it all back. And that's exactly what I did.